Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, welcome to Dungeon Crafters, the competitive game of dungeon design. This is Battleship meets Dungeons and Dragons, and if you are intrigued by that description, continue to watch on. And for those of you who aren't, I encourage you to watch on anyway, because I'm telling you, this is fantastic. So we have a DM screen separating the two players. Now we have one set up, but at the beginning of the game, this is what it's going to look like. Each player has a 12-inch by 12-inch, it's a 12 by 12 grid of a dungeon. And this is a fantastic use of WarLock tiles. I'll explain in a second why WarLock tiles make this absolutely work. So essentially, what you're doing is each player is going to be designing their own dungeon in secret, hence the DM screen. The other player is going to tell you where their hero wants to move without knowing what's in front of them, what's behind them, what's around them. You as the DM are going to tell them what they run into, whether it be walls, traps, treasure, monsters, whatever the case may be. And of course, we'll be battling, trying to unlock doors, all kinds of things along the way. The objective is to get from the entrance, wherever the dungeon master decides to place the entrance, get the hero from the entrance to the treasure pile, wherever that ends up being. But of course, we're going to have walls, doors, traps, all sorts of things in between. And again, the other player has no idea where all this stuff is. They're going to be keeping track of it on their grid sheet. So let's say we had the entranceway here. That's where we start. Now we get to know at least which direction the entrance is facing and where we are. That way we can start out here. The stairs do take up 2 squares. So 2 squares behind us are filled. That's where we start. Of course, we wouldn't see this. We would be keeping track of where our hero is in their dungeon behind the screen. But on our turn, we may say something like, okay, I want to move south. All right, and they say, okay, that's fine, you can move south. And then as long as you haven't run into any obstructions, you can keep going. All right, I'm going to move south again. Oh, nope, sorry, there's a wall there. All right, so we know there's a wall there. And that's when our turn ends. Your turn can end one of 4 different ways. Either you fail to unlock a door, you run into a wall, you run into a trap, or you end up battling a monster. Whether you defeat them or not, that'll also end your turn. Then it's the next player's turn. So us, as the dungeon master, they'll tell us south. All right, south. All right, east. Okay, east. West. Well, you probably wouldn't want to do that, but in that instance, that's how you do it. You move their hero through your dungeon. So let's do a little sample setup here of exactly how a dungeon creation may take place. Each dungeon master at the beginning of the game is going to have 3 minutes to populate the dungeon. And we're doing this simultaneously, so the game begins. We have 20 walls, 4 doors, 4 traps, 4 treasure, 6 monsters, and a treasure pile, which they're trying to get to. The treasure pile takes up a full 2 by 2 square. Everything else fits in the squares they're a part of. All right, so let's get started. Let's say, all right, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, 3 minutes. I'm just going to stick the stairs way in the back. I'm going to put the treasure pile way over on this side. And now we got to put the walls in here. And I'm going to start making maybe a little corridor down this way. I'm going to leave a gap right there. They can maybe come all the way down to here before they run into a wall there. I'm going to put a door over here. And we'll put 2 traps on the other side of the door. So when you move through a door, it is locked until they unlock it. If they run into a door, we will say odds or evens, and then they'll roll their d20. And if we said evens and they rolled an even, all right, they unlock the door, they can move through it. But if they rolled an odd, they are stuck there until next turn they get to try again. But since a doorway does occupy 2 spaces wide, they will start on 1 square, and when they unlock the door to move through it, they'll just stop on that adjacent square. So we're going to put 2 traps here, so no matter which space they move through, they're going to fall into a trap. I'll explain how traps work in a second, but we got to move on here because we only have 3 minutes to do all this. And of course, I'm going to also start kind of coming up from this side too. So we're going to have, we'll put a door over on this side. And I also want to guarantee that they run into some traps before they hit the treasure. So we'll put some traps behind that door. I'm going to make them walk all the way to this other side of the dungeon before they can even think about heading south. In fact, no, I'm going to leave that one open, and I'm going to create an alcove down here. So that may be a little misdirection for them. Can you imagine how tedious that would be? All right, and then we'll make them come all the way down to this side too. In fact, no, we'll do something like this. And we'll put a door over here, and then we'll grab some more and just make some more walls up this way, some things like that. We'll put a door over here as well. Now let's put some monsters. I'll put 2 behind this door so they'll run into one no matter what. I'm going to do the same thing over here. 2 monsters this way as well. What else should we do? I'm going to put a couple monsters here. And we have these items. Now, we don't like these items, but we're going to put them anywhere because these are going to be helpful to them. We're going to put them somewhere where, you know, hopefully they won't actually find them. And then, boom, we're done. And then their hero will go at the bottom of the stairs. All right, so there you go. Here's our dungeon. Oh, my gosh, it's fantastic. And hopefully, I don't know, I kind of talked in between there, but hopefully that was less than 3 minutes. If there's still pieces you haven't used and 3 minutes is up, that's it. You don't get to keep placing them. You do still have to place the treasure pile. That is, as soon as the hero would step into either space of the treasure pile space, that means they've reached the treasure pile. All right, so here's what we have. This is our dungeon. And this is why the WarLock tiles are fantastic for this. I've made this 12 by 12 square with the thicker exterior walls. Every piece is clipped. And so there are clips in between, and these tiles are 2 by 2 tiles. Each of these tiles are clipped on all 4 sides. So these interior walls with the metal tabs slip right between the tiles and stay put just like that. I mean, how fantastic is that? That's why these WarLock tiles are perfect for this, because then you can just slip in the door, slip in the walls. All right, so here's an example of how we set ours up. Here's an example that I did earlier of how this one may look. And as you can see, they went for a little bit of a different route here because they put the entrance more in the middle, and they have a couple options to eventually, hopefully, try to find their way and make their way around to the treasure pile there. But similar kind of situation in terms of we have traps by the doors. Of course, you don't have to put them next to each other, but it's like, well, if they move through the door, what if they move through on that space? Then they miss the trap. So I'm kind of a fan of having both traps there. Kind of like I also pair the monsters up. Now, I've used skeletons on both sides, but in this game, there are no specific monster attributes. I suppose if you wanted to do an advanced version where maybe orcs are a little stronger to defeat than a skeleton, you could do something like that and just mix and match all the different kinds of monsters. But the way this is, you get 6 monsters. They're all generic. It's just a roll-off. Whenever the hero would enter a space, let's say they unlock this door and they would enter a space with the monster, it's just a roll-off. So we would roll our die to try to, I guess, if we are the dungeon master in this scenario, we'd be rolling for the monster. So we rolled a 7, and the hero, let's say they rolled a, oh my gosh, a nat 20. Well, that absolutely crushed that monster. So that monster's been eliminated and they move into that next space. So again, the monsters are all generic. So you can use any minis you have at home and just populate 6 of any different kind of monster. That would be kind of cool. And then if they ever move into a space that contains a treasure chest, it's going to be odds or evens again in terms of what they find. It's either going to be a weapon enchantment that adds +1 to their die roll. And if they ever find multiple of those, it'll add +1, +2, +3, whatever the case may be to their die rolls in combat. Or it may be a health potion. That's the only way to get health back in this game. And I haven't talked about how you lose health, but if you ever gain health or a health potion, it's just a 1-point health if you find a health potion. So let's say health potions are odds, weapons enchantments are evens, and we rolled an even. So we got a weapon enchantment. We'll make a little note of that on our board. Here was an example of how I was kind of moving through a dungeon earlier with some walls and traps and whatnot. But if you ever roll off with a monster and do not defeat them in that roll off, that's when your turn ends. You also take a wound. Each hero starts with 10 HP. So in this case, let's say I failed to kill that skeleton. I would lose an HP. I'm down to 9. My turn ends. On my next turn, I would try again. You don't get to leave and come back or anything like that. Once you're in combat till one of you is dead. And then that's one way to lose health, is every time you fail to defeat a monster, you lose 1 HP. Or if you step into a trap, boom, oh, that's just 1 automatic HP loss. There's no avoiding the trap, unfortunately, and that is another way to lose HP. And then eventually you're going to either die in the dungeon, or you are going to make it to the treasure pile. And the first player to make it to the treasure wins. But that is a very quick, brief overview of Dungeon Crafters, just a fun way I came up with last night to use my WarLock tiles, and then it ends up looking something like this. Now, there's an easy variant and an advanced variant, because on the advanced variant, which is the one we're doing now, you can put the entrance anywhere, and all the other person knows is the direction the entrance is facing. They don't know where in the dungeon the entrance is placed. However, if you wanted to do an easier variant, you can coordinate it. It would be A through L and 1 through 12. So you can call out coordinates, just like in Battleship, basically. Okay, so we're starting at A3. All right, so I'm moving to A4. I'm moving to A5. Wait, did I say that? No. So if we did A through L, so this would actually be C1. All right, then we're going to move to D1, and then D2, and E2, etc. like that. So they always know, and they could even make a square with the A through L and 1 through 12. So they always know exactly where they are, where the outer boundaries are. Personally, I like it where you don't know anything about the dungeon, but you absolutely could. If you also wanted to make it easier, where maybe you roll to see if you can avoid a trap, that, is fairly thematic. I just like the automatic wound, so there's no avoiding it. You just stepped in a pit, that kind of thing. But you could absolutely customize it if monsters have different stats, if you can roll to avoid traps, if you want to use the coordinates, either way. But folks, I'm having a blast with this. Where did my inspiration from this come from? It came from this, and I have a video on this game on my channel. It is this. It's this Dragon Quest Dungeon R. This is a super uncommon, this game's in Japanese. Go check out my video for the full review of this. I did that so many years ago, like 8 years ago or something like that. It has something very similar where there's a screen on each side. There's a dungeon with stuff that you kind of set up in there. There's even a lower level in this one, but you can't see the other person's screen, and you're navigating their person as per their command, and they're navigating your person as per what you want it to do. And there's monsters and stuff in there. I actually don't even know how to play this. I'm just kind of guessing because this has Japanese rules. So I'm not entirely sure. I'm just kind of guessing, but it kind of looked like Battleship in a dungeon. And so I said, you know what? We can do the same kind of thing here. These WarLock tiles, 3 minutes, set up a quick little dungeon, and then just run the heroes through it. All right, folks, that is going to be it. Let me know in the comments below if you find this interesting. I would love to hear your feedback and tips for other nuances to add to the gameplay. Otherwise, we're just keeping it simple. Thank you all so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it, and until next time.